At some point, not in a dramatic way, just in the middle of an ordinary day, you start realizing things don't feel the way they used to. Maybe you're scrolling through old photos late at night and you notice how much lighter you look back then, not just physically, but mentally. Or you meet an old friend, sit across from them, listen to their life now, and quietly realize you're both in completely different places, even if you started from the same point. Not better, not worse, just different. The things that once made you proud, small wins, recognition, feeling like you were on track, don't carry the same weight anymore. Back then, they felt like proof you were going somewhere. Now, they feel temporary, like waves that came in, made noise, and disappeared before you could even hold on to them. And it's strange, because nothing is technically wrong. You're still moving, still doing things, still living your life, but there's this quiet shift in the background, a subtle feeling that something doesn't quite add up anymore. And then, almost without warning, a question shows up, not loud, not urgent, just there. So what's actually left when all of this passes? You don't rush to answer it, but once it appears, it doesn't really go away. There was a time you probably believed that if you worked hard enough, stayed consistent enough, and just kept doing the right thing, things would eventually fall into place. That belief was simple, almost comforting. It gave you a sense of control, like as long as you kept pushing, the outcome would take care of itself. And to be fair, you did push. You showed up, stayed disciplined, tried to improve, tried to be better than yesterday. But the longer you live, the harder it becomes to fully believe that effort alone is enough. Because at some point, you start noticing patterns you can't ignore. You see people who don't seem more disciplined than you, not more focused, not even more capable, yet somehow they're ahead. They move faster, get more opportunities, get recognized sooner, and it creates this quiet tension in your head. Not anger, not even jealousy, just confusion. What am I missing here? You replay your own actions, your own choices, trying to find the gap. But sometimes there isn't a clear answer. And slowly you begin to understand something. Uncomfortable life doesn't always reward effort the way you expect it to. There are other variables, other forces, things you don't fully control. It doesn't mean effort doesn't matter. It just means it's not the whole story. As you start paying closer attention, something else becomes hard to ignore. People don't really ask how hard you tried. They don't ask how many times you failed or how many nights you stayed up trying to fix things. They look at what's visible. Your job title, your income, your lifestyle, that's what gets measured. You could have spent months pushing yourself, dealing with pressure nobody else saw. But in the end, those invisible efforts don't show up in the way people evaluate you. And it sounds harsh when you say it out loud, almost unfair. But then you catch yourself doing the same thing. You meet someone new, and without even realizing it, you start forming an impression. How they talk, how they carry themselves, what they seem to have. You don't ask about their struggles, you don't see their process, you just see the outcome. And that's when it hits you, this isn't something other people are doing. This is just how things work. Nobody announces it, but everybody plays by it. Then life brings you face to face with something even harder to accept. Family isn't held together by emotions alone. You can care deeply about the people around you. You can genuinely want the best for them. But when money becomes tight, when every month feels like something you have to survive rather than live, that pressure doesn't stay outside. It creeps into everything. It shows up in small moments. A quiet dinner where nobody says much. A simple conversation that turns tense faster than it should. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful, just heavy. People like to believe relationships fall apart because love fades. But if you look closely, it's often something more practical. More uncomfortable. Financial stress, uncertainty, the constant weight of not having enough. No one really wants to admit that. It sounds too transactional, too cold. But if you've ever felt the pressure of bills stacking up, or the anxiety of not being able to provide enough, you already know. Love might be the reason people stay, but stability is often the reason they can't. That's when another kind of frustration begins to build. You might be capable, you might understand things at a deeper level than most people around you, You might even see patterns, opportunities, or mistakes more clearly. But if none of that turns into something tangible, it's like it doesn't fully count. You've probably seen it or maybe even felt it yourself. People who read a lot, think a lot, analyze everything, but their actual life doesn't move much. And that creates a very specific kind of pressure. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's just this quiet feeling of being stuck. Like you know you have something in you, but you can't quite convert it into something real. Something useful, something that actually changes your situation. And over time, that gap becomes heavier than you expect. Because knowing more doesn't always make life easier. Sometimes, it just makes you more aware of how little is changing. Then you start looking at your relationships a little differently. Your contact list might be full names, numbers, people you've met over the years. But when something actually happens, when you need help, advice, or even just someone to talk to, you hesitate. You scroll for a bit, pause, and realize you don't really know who to call. It's not that people don't care. It's not that you don't matter. It's just that everyone is busy dealing with their own life. People like to talk about connections and networking, like having more people around automatically means something. But if you pay attention, most relationships stay alive because there's a reason for them to stay alive. You've probably experienced it texting someone and getting no reply, or only hearing from people when they need something. It doesn't feel great. But if you're honest, you've done the same thing too. You've prioritized certain people, let others fade out, not because you're a bad person, but because you simply can't hold on to everyone. And eventually, you see it more clearly. Not everything is fake. It's just a lot of it is conditional. At some point, you go through a phase where something becomes very clear, even if no one says it out loud. No one is going to carry your life for you. People can help you for a while. They can be there when things are stable. They can support you when you fall the first time. But when things get truly difficult, everyone has to hold themselves together first. It's not that they're abandoning you. They're just trying not to fall apart themselves. There are moments when you want to open up, to explain what you're going through, to have someone really understand. But you end up staying quiet, not because there's nothing to say, but because deep down, you know it won't really change much. And in those moments, you start to understand what it means to be alone with your own life. It's not comfortable, but it's real. As you move forward, your perspective starts to shift again. Things you once thought were yours, your job, your money, your relationships, even your long-term plans, begin to feel less certain than they used to. A job can disappear with one decision. A relationship can change after one turning point. And slowly, you realize maybe you never truly owned any of it in the first place. That thought sounds a little heavy. But strangely, once you accept it, things start to feel lighter. You hold on less tightly. You expect less permanence. And because of that, when something changes, it doesn't break you the way it used to. Not because you don't care, but because you understand it was always temporary. Then there comes a moment when your environment changes. Maybe you leave a job. Maybe your situation shifts. And suddenly, things don't feel as easy as they once did. What used to come naturally now takes effort. What you once thought was your strength doesn't seem to work the same way anymore. It's not that you've become less capable. It's just that before, you had a system supporting you, and you didn't fully realize it. And once that system is gone, you're left with a clearer question. What part of this is actually mine? It's not the most comfortable realization, but it's an important one. Because for the first time, you're no longer defining yourself by where you stand. You're starting to see what you actually bring. After all of this, your life doesn't suddenly transform overnight. You still wake up, go to work, deal with the same responsibilities. Nothing looks dramatically different from the outside. But internally, something shifts quietly. You start seeing things more clearly. You rely less on other people. You stop believing that understanding something is enough. Instead, you begin focusing on smaller, more stable things. Earning a little more consistently, becoming a little more independent, taking care of yourself at least at a basic level, not to prove anything to anyone, just so you don't fall behind in your own life. And if you found yourself somewhere in these thoughts, you're probably not the only one. So if you want more perspectives like this, not perfect, not polished, but real enough to sit with, you might want to stay around for a bit.